Welcome to MTA International in our studios in Los Angeles, California. This is Open Forum. Today we're going to talk about the auxiliary group of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community called Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya USA or MKA USA. And today I have two great members of MKA USA here. First we have the guide of the Los Angeles East chapter of MKA USA, Usama Muzaffar. Welcome to the show.
Zaki, thank you very much.
And we have Zaki Syed. Zaki is the naib guide of the Los Angeles East chapter of Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya USA, MKA USA. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, so what is MKA USA? Tell me what the vision is, and you're in over 70 chapters around the country. What's the vision of MKA USA?
Well, MKA, from over here is the largest and the fastest growing Muslim youth association in the USA.
What's your goal? Why do you exist?
To serve, really, right? I mean, I think if you look at our numbers, we've done so much humanity service. We've helped so many people. We've collected blood bags, thousands of them. We've put in a lot of labor hours, hundreds of thousands, I believe. Essentially, here to serve in any capacity possible.
And there's many chapters around the country. You belong to the Los Angeles East chapter. There's many chapters in the Los Angeles area as well. I heard you guys were recognized as the best chapter in the country. Is that true?
Correct. Yeah, there are I think over 70 different chapters right here in the United States of America.
And why were you recognized for that?
They have a certain metric that they kind of gauge each chapter against. And some of the things that we weren't even aiming for receiving this esteemed prize. It was more of, hey, let's try to get some small wins. Let's try to hold activities on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, and that we executed to throughout the year.
And was this a subcategory of large chapters, middle-sized chapters, small chapters, or was this with all chapters?
So it was the large chapter.
How many members do you have here?
We'll see. LA East has about 120 youth, and if you count the even younger youth, which kind of fall in the subsidiary of Majlis Khudamul Ahmadiyya, there's about 40 of those. So about 100 and let's say 150 kids.
160 total members that you guys are leading.
Yes.
Exactly. And so, what's so special about LA East?
LA. I mean, where can I start? I mean, I think speaking of Al Menami,
Al Menami is this prize you got for the best chapter.
Special about that specific, timing in the year that we got it was because of, Hazur's visit. I think he came literally the year before and the year after we won. I think a lot of people were at that time very motivated, very excited, and,
So His Holiness Mr. Ahmed came. And that motivated the troops, if you will, to be even more engaged. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think that kind of reinvigorated the youth to want to be a part of this great community that we have, and that was the spearhead to get people motivated.
And so what happened? Let's talk about you guys have certain departments. The first department is Tabligh or external outreach. What do you do in that area?
Well, I think the biggest focus at that time and still now is, handing out flyers, based on the different campaigns that we have throughout the year. At that time, we were focusing on big parades, Rose Parade in Pasadena, thousands of people. We had a crew of about, I think, more than like 20, 30 people at one time. Yeah. We would come to Fajr, meet at the mosque, carpool, take everybody there. Sufyan Faruqi, I don't know if you know of him. He was leading the efforts at that time.
He's a local member.
Yes, he's a local member. So he had, we would come here. He would have the flyers ready to go. He would give, you have to distribute about 500 flyers. You have to distribute this much. We would have backpacks, and we would go, a couple of hours before the parade started, walk the parade route, and hand the flyers out. We were able to grab a lot of people because of
that is important because you're spreading the message of Islam to residents in the neighborhood. And what parade was this?
This is the Rose
This is one of the largest parades in the country?
It's one of the largest, yes.
That's great. How many flyers do you distribute there?
I think our record has been like over 10,000 once.
Wow.
That was with the big, that was for the big team.
And there was many other parades also, like there's the July 4th parades that happen in
So
local
you go
cities.
to all these parades and spread your message.
Yes.
And you guys have floats on in these parades as well?
Yes, actually, of the July 4th parade, we actually got awarded as the best float. What we had was a flatbed truck that we decorated for the.
What was the theme of your float?
That was centered around the campaign at the time, which was Muslims for Loyalty. And we would
What does
hand
that
out.
mean? What's that campaign about?
So the campaign was centered around how Muslims are taught to be loyal to the country that they reside in.
Wow.
And that might be a misconception that others that aren't well versed in the Muslim beliefs are. So we wanted to spread that knowledge and pass out these flyers that had small little excerpts of where and how Muslims believe in loyalty for the country.
You're educating your neighborhood, your community, and what was the response of these individuals?
Dude, they were very happy. I mean, you would say, we walked down the parade a mile and a half, and people were just cheering.
Really?
People were thanking us. And at the end, we actually won the most patriotic, Muslims won the most patriotic,
Wow.
float at the parade. And there were dozens. There were dozens of, floats there that you can say were just as good as ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had a mile long of floats.
Tractors and trucks with, different paints and, flags everywhere. But ours, I think, stood out the most.
That's
just
great.
because.
And tell me about the conversations with individuals that you handed out to. How did people react?
So as Usama Bhai said, people would come up to us and they say, hey, thank you. They would come and shake our hands. We would hand them their flyers. They themselves would open the flyers and look at them and read it. And as you would hand out a flyer and you'd proceed to the next individual and hand out another flyer. People that you had already given them to would come up and say, hey, thank you. I really appreciate the message you guys are spreading. And you would have things happen all the time, and it would kind of reinvigorate, like, yes, Americans just need to be reached out to.
And build a sense of community and not be afraid. They're saying that over 60% of Americans have never knowingly even met a Muslim, right? So, I mean, is that part of this campaign to build just awareness of who Muslims are?
No, exactly.
Exactly.
I think through this we've built so many relationships. For example, the guy who actually used to win the best float every single year that lost to us the past 2 years, he's actually a very close friend. Yesterday he was actually here with his tractor. Yeah, so he had a tractor. I don't know if you saw.
So he came to your mosque?
Yeah, he comes to July 4th events that we have at the mosque. He comes to these interfaith events that we have.
So he's very engaged.
Okay. Yeah, he has a tractor actually with like a bunch of American flags on it. It's a red tractor, very American, very patriotic. A white gentleman, very nice. He was here yesterday, thanking us again for this event.
That's a great story. Yeah. And so the purpose of MKA USA, I mean, if I may quote, is a nation cannot be reformed without reforming its youth. Is that the underlying principle here, that there's the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the larger organization, but there are 3 auxiliaries underneath, and this, some would argue, very important to focus in on the youth. And youth go through a lot of challenges. You come through to a fork in the road. These kids, they get their own cars, and how do you work with kids as they go through their evolution? I mean, before they have cars, you just go pick them up and bring them to the mosque. They say that after they get a car, they go off in a different tangent. When they go to college, how do you work with youth and then keep them connected to spirituality?
So I think what the plan that we had come up with was, people are at different levels of righteousness in their life, and that's okay. So what we wanted to kind of set up was a platform that, or an area that they can go to, kind of, I don't want to say safe haven, but for lack of a better term, that's kind of what we wanted to gear towards, where we can have these weekly meetings, midweek meetings, or somewhere that these youth can go to interact with other Muslim youth in our community.
But you guys come before sunrise to the mosque. How do you convince youth to do that?
So we would set up programs. We have this thing called Fajr Fit, which was a national initiative that we would do.
Fajr is the morning prayer.
Yes. So after morning prayer, you would do some sort of physical activity that gets your heart pumping early morning. So I think Saturday mornings we would come here at Beth Hamid Mosque in Chino, California. There's a basketball court. A lot of our youth like basketball.
So you're connecting. So, but stay with their religious training, their moral training for a second. Coming to before the break of dawn for your Fajr prayer is not that easy. How do you convince them of this? I would have a hard time waking up youth at that hour.
You know, I don't think there's really convincing.
Really?
It's really the person themselves. You know, the people that are gonna come are the people that are gonna come. You know, I think it's literally. I mean, we can only do so much. We can only encourage people so much to come to the mosque or come to this, you know, super early prayer. And the people that do come are the people that, you know, have that, you know, desire or that love.
Really, but you connect with them, and in relationships, seems like you two have a great relationship.
No, definitely. I think it's as simple as, you know, like you said, relationships. You know, we ask them, you know, we're having this event, you know, at the mosque, you know, post morning prayers.
And you talk to them about it. Okay.
You know, you should come. It'll be fun. You know, we'll hang out. You know, it's kind of early, but you know, maybe
what does hang out mean? How do you just spend time together?
Yeah, exactly.
The colloquialism.
Yeah, the clean hangout. You know, for example, we were talking about, you know, social. You know, how do you keep these youth, you know, away from these things?
Social ills.
Yeah. We have, for example, let's say we have you know, the Super Bowl that comes every single year. We have the NBA.
Super Bowl is the football, the football culmination of the National Football League in America.
And the All-Star game, you know, instead of, you know, there's a lot of alternatives people can do. You know, there's a lot of parties going on at that time. So what we will do is, you know, we'll throw our own parties.
Good.
You know, we'll have barbecues.
And is there support from the elders in your community to support the youth?
They love it. I mean, I think the parents will come up to them, thank you for doing this.
Great.
And I think it was great that you guys did it.
So I'm going to read from your pledge that MKA USA does. It seems like they do it before every meeting. I mean, this is the pledge that you do to be a part of MKA USA. And it says, I solemnly pledge that I shall always be ready to sacrifice my life, wealth, time, and honor for the sake of my faith, country, and nation. That is really bold and all-encompassing. How do you digest that?
It's tough. It's like you said. It's very heavy. It's a loaded pledge. But like anything, you take it, you know, one step at a time. You gotta, you know, take baby steps to be able to get to that level where you can really, you know, say that you're adhering to this pledge.
And it also says, it goes on to say, so, you know, your time, your money, your everything, you're willing to give this up to be part of this organization. And as a youth, where, you know, your car and your money matter so much, you're convincing the youth that they should really be ready to do that. And it goes on to say, likewise, I shall be ready to offer any sacrifice for guarding the institution of Khilafat. And, you know, currently His Holiness Mirza Masroor Ahmad is the leader of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community and head of the MKA USA auxiliary as well. It rolls up internationally to him. So you're willing to give your life? I mean, how do you educate youth to live up to this?
Again, I think that's you know, we can. It's our forward. Okay, so well, let's talk about, you know, one of the other departments that we have, Talim, which is spiritual, you know, education.
Education, okay.
Right? You know, people will come, you know, we'll have discussions, we'll talk about, you know, different, you know, topics and matters. And, you know, Khilafat is one of the things we might talk about at one point. You know, we'll get deep into it. And I think it's really the understanding. You know, you can say a pledge, you know, you can recite it, you know, and if you don't understand the pledge, exactly, you know, what it means and why we say the pledge, for what reasons, you know, people might not understand it. So I think helping people understand, you know, why we're doing this pledge, what is the meaning behind this pledge, I think helps a lot, you know. And I still myself, you know, I still struggle myself to, you know, follow this pledge. It's very, it's difficult.
So in your Talim department, there's book reading as well.
Yeah.
What books have you guys read in this area?
Well, we have a national curriculum that's given to us by national. Okay, you know, these are the books that are given to you. You should follow, you know, this. And obviously, it's just a recommendation. But really, I think what we try to mainly focus on is, you know, the books of the Promised Messiah. national.
His Holiness Mirza Masroor Ahmad.
Yeah, and then
Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Excuse me. Yeah.
And then at the same time focus on the Quran as well.
And it seems that safety of Muslims is sometimes questioned in America as well as other countries, particularly the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. You guys spend a lot of energy on security, and you have a whole department on this, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, we're at a mosque. With all with everything that's happening these days, we don't know what's going to happen. Security is something that's because of our faith, we're targeted in some countries. So security, as you said, we have the Majlis al-Ahmadiyya, which is the backbone of this institution.
So you guys do a lot of, I mean, being a backbone when you have national events, when you have conventions and whatnot, I mean, there's a lot of labor involved.
Exactly. For I think every Friday prayer we'll have like 4 people. For example, this event that we're having.
When you have a convention?
Yeah. We'll have, dozens of volunteers, up all day, up all night. Really following through with that pledge that we just spoke about not too long ago.
That's great. So security. So this idea of working with your hands. Do you guys clean the mosque? Do you guys, setting up chairs? I mean, there's a lot of work involved. How many hours does that take?
Hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds.
I think we for this event specifically, the convention, the peaceful convention that we've had a week before, with the manpower of dozens of people.
Yeah, our chapter is lucky. Every year we host the West Coast annual convention.
Okay.
That the Ahmadiyya Muslim community holds.
And people come from outside the area?
People come from all over the West Coast. We have some individuals from New York, from Canada. So even though it's titled West Coast, it's a national, international event that individuals.
But you got to host all those individuals.
Yeah, so you have to host them. You have thousands of individuals that come. So as you mentioned, there's hundreds of tables and chairs and tents that need to be erected.
And the youth really accept that responsibility.
Yeah,
wow.
We actually are proud to do it.
That's great. So now tell me about your community service. Do you help outside your own members as well?
Yes. So one thing I guess we'll speak out about is the food drive. The weekly food drive that we do. We actually have a brother, Raymond Brown. He's a local member of ours, and what he does is every Saturday morning and Tuesday morning, we'll distribute, a bunch of lunches to the homeless. About 120, 130 bags.
Yeah. To homeless.
Yeah.
Twice a week.
And in the winters, it's cold out there. They don't have food, and food insecurity is a big deal.
Yeah.
So these days we're giving jackets and jeans, on a weekly basis. So. We've built a good relationship with these guys. These guys, are happy to see us every time we arrive with food. And
that's great. That is great. How do you make sure that youth stay fit? Obesity is a big epidemic in America, in particular.
It is. It's true. So I guess we can. In the previous comment that I had mentioned about that Fudger Fit, it's a national campaign about health, and it aims towards, doing it in the morning. And there's all sorts of statistics about how if you exercise in the morning, that's about the most optimal time to do it. So we try to have some of our events around that early morning time. So Saturday mornings, some of our youth will go and do this food drive. Others will partake in basketball or events.
Sporting events.
Sporting events, there's physical events, and then there's also like the education aspect of it. We do host health fairs that we do with the local chapter here as well, where we educate our members about healthy eating and healthy habits and nutrition, which is, one of the major portions of anybody's health.
Well, and what do you have in store for the future? What are you guys thinking about working on? And as you go forward, now that you've achieved this great mark of being the best chapter in the country, what are you looking forward to doing?
I think it's improving. We've come a long way, but I think we still have a long way to go. We can't stop. Yeah, so we can't stop here. I think we'll keep. We'll keep trying to do better. We'll keep on trying our best. We'll keep
Well, we'll have you back when you continue to achieve great things. Thank you for being on the show. Zaki, Syed, Usama, Muzaffar, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
This has been a highlight of the auxiliary organization of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community called MKA USA and the Los Angeles East chapter, which achieved a great mark of being the best chapter in the country, and by achieving lots of great things. And we wish them best of luck. This is MTA International in our Los Angeles, California studios of Open Forum.
On May 30th, 2014, the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association USA conducted its first ever Day on the Hill event in Washington, D.C. This historic event brought together over 250 Muslim young men and boys from across the country to introduce the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association to members of the U.S. Congress. Over 50 individual meetings were arranged between congressional offices and delegates of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association. During these meetings, the group's community service efforts were highlighted. A press conference was held with Congresswoman Jackie Spear, co-chair of the newly formed Ahmadiyya Muslim Caucus, and Congressman Mike Honda.
And the kind of activities you're involved in really does reflect well on your teachings. It reflects well on the teachings of His Holiness, and I think that it reflects well on your parents.
Bilal Rana, president of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association, spoke during the press conference about the group's mission for coming to Capitol Hill.
Today is a historic day for the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association. We came to Capitol Hill not to ask, but to give. We want to help feed the hungry in America. And we asked Congress to help us identify organizations in the districts of those congressmen that we can work with, who can help us achieve our goal of feeding 1 million hungry Americans.
During their meetings with congressional representatives, members of AMYA explained the Muslim Youth Against Hunger campaign. This campaign has raised over $150,000 over the past few years and has helped feed hundreds of thousands of people. Feeding those struggling with hunger has become a point of focus for AMYA, which touched a chord with Congresswoman Jackie Spear.
I am very pleased to see that you are dedicating yourselves to the issue of hunger, particularly in a country as rich as ours. To have so many millions of people living in hunger is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. For a week, for 5 days, for 3 days, I would encourage you to take up the food stamp challenge. And it's quite simple. All you do is live on $4.50 a day. That's all.
Following the press conference, the young men from AMYA gathered outside in the area known as the National Mall to perform the Islamic Friday prayer service. This historic park sits between the Capitol building and the Washington Monument and is known in history as the venue of the March on Washington that featured Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. In his Friday sermon delivered at the National Mall, the vice president of the youth organization, Basir Rodney, stated that we have come as constituents of America's diverse and varied congressional districts to offer the voice of the Muslim youth. In particular, we raise our voice against the intractable food insecurity that is gripping our America. He explained that the promised Messiah ﷺ guided his followers to make our conduct, manners, and character such that these qualities spread like epidemic diseases. He taught that our character should have a glow and a brightness that produces an attraction, so much so that others are attracted and drawn to us. After the Friday prayers, the funeral prayer was offered in absentia for Dr. Mehdi Ali Qamar Shaheed of Ohio, who was recently martyred in Pakistan while on a humanitarian visit. The day ended with the inaugural Walk for Humanity 2014, which was held in conjunction with the food drive. The Muslim youth passed out flyers around the walk, explaining their efforts as they filled bags with non-perishable food items which were donated to the Capital Area Food Bank. This historic event marked the first time the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association USA has made a concerted national effort to engage their political leaders and highlight their community efforts, and it proved to be a wonderful success.